everybody, it's Debbie LaChusa. I'm here with another living inspired story, and I'm so excited to be at Warhorse Ranch with my friend Sheryl Brown, who is building a very inspired business called Healing Horse. Sheryl and I go way back. We actually knew each other 25, 30
goes back
more years ago. We're aging ourselves. Worked together in a couple of different businesses that Sheryl ran, and I don't know if you know this, but you're actually indirectly responsible for me becoming an online teacher, because you hired me when you were running Well Coaches
yeah,
to teach my very first teleclass. Feels like another lifetime ago.
I know, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
And so we reconnected after about 10 years via a post on LinkedIn about the horse therapy work that you were doing. And I was doing dog therapy, and I thought, I have to reach out. That in itself was an inspired action.
That was pretty amazing that you and I, through other things that we had gone through, were both doing therapy with animals. It was pretty interesting.
Because it was nothing like anything we've done before.
Very different than anything we'd done.
So I'm so happy that you're here today.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to talk. We've talked a lot about this over the past year, so I'm excited to share it with everybody because this is very inspired. So can you just tell me what got you started on this path to what you're doing now here at Healing Horse?
Well, I'd actually kind of drifted out of working in an area of my passion, and kind of longed to be back in the wellness and self-healing kind of area. And I read a book called Mind Over Medicine, and it really inspired me to get my ass back into this business and be closer to something that I really love doing. And so I went through this training program the author had to kind of re-immerse myself in the whole field and get reacquainted with who the new players were and who the new thinkers were in the wellness industry. And so I went through the program just totally inspired and totally excited to be kind of back in something that I love to do. And my thought was that, well, when I get done with this, I'll be putting a website up, doing marketing, and going into wellness coaching. And so,
executing your whole plan.
Yeah, get it. So I just assumed kind of that's where it was going to go. And so I got done with the program, and it was about October, and my thinking was, well, November, December, get the website up, get the marketing going. January is a perfect time for this kind of program. But I got done with their training, and I didn't know what to do. And I was kind of shocked because I was so inspired about it that it was really almost unnerving that I kind of lost what to do. Yeah. It didn't feel right to make the website. It didn't feel right to do that. And so I honored that and thought, I'm not going to push this because I truly believe where it came from and that something needs to, go on hold right now. So I patiently waited and focused more on my horses and things in my life that I really enjoyed doing. And it wasn't until December that I got a call from a therapist friend of mine. And my therapist, the therapist called me, and she just said, I found this line of work that I really want to get into that works with horses in therapy. And she said, would you take a look at it and see if you might be interested? Because I need to do it. I have to have an equine specialist work with me, and you could be my equine specialist. And so I went to the websites that she pointed me to, and it was like, oh my God, this is it. That's why I didn't get started with the website.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah. I mean, it all of a sudden just makes sense. That's why I didn't do it. So I got super excited about going into this equine therapy work. And then the month before we were going to start our training, she called and she didn't want to do it. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? This is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But what it was is that she was going to take me into a line of work working with therapists, and I'd always have to work with therapists. And when she backed out, I realized that there was this whole other world of doing coaching with horses that I could get trained and certified in. So I quickly found a program to get involved in, and the second day in the program, I got this inspiration for what you see here today. And it was kind of this amazing series of almost like the light bulb. We hear people say the light bulb went on. It was like this room was dark and this light went on, and I could see that we're going to my husband and I were going to create this ranch, and we're going to do all these things. And so I was so excited to get home from the training and talk to him, and sat down over dinner with a glass of wine and shared this vision, and he was 100% in. That was in January.
Yeah.
And we started off with 2 horses, no ranch, nothing. By August, we were in business. We had our first clients. We bought this. We leased this property. We put the renovations in, brought the horses in, and we had a business by August.
That's fast.
But it's like you and I have talked. When it's right, things just fall into place. And it was like before I could even ask for something I needed, people kind of stepped into my life, and it was like, oh, well, you'd be perfect for this.
Yes.
And everything just literally fell into place. And so we had our first corporate group in August. But what was strange was that before August, I had been thinking that I was going to do the healing work with people in another year, that I'd get the corporate stuff kind of put into place, and the healing stuff with individuals would come later. And in before August, I started to get this feeling like I needed to go get more training immediately. And it was like the other part of me in my head going like, come on, like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is going good. What are we doing?
Yes.
But that it wouldn't go away.
Yes.
And it's that whisper, you have light
Yes.
bulbs, and you've got those whispers, and that it just kept saying, now, now. And so it was a week or 2 before we had our first corporate client, and I flew to Kentucky to get more training in the personal wellness side.
Right.
And came back from that, and kind of the same thing happened. I got back, I had all the training, and then it was like, I'm not supposed to develop a website. I don't know how this is I'm not sure. So it was just that process of, I think one of the things I've learned with this whole thing is that there's times of quietness
Yes.
and space that you have to give to it, and it doesn't come all like at once, and it's not like linear. You'll go with maybe this big inspiration, and then it'll carry you so far, and then there's a moment of quiet, and you have to trust
Yes.
that quiet and trust the process that you'll get more information at the right time. And so I kind of slowly started getting these little whispers of it wasn't going to be the traditional work that I had seen. It was going to be something a little bit different, and I was going to bring my meditation into it. And so I kind of very slowly pieced this concept together, and decided to use the medium of Meetup to market instead of doing a traditional website. And it went like crazy.
Yeah.
And you know how hard it is to start a coaching
Yes.
business.
I have coached and consulted myself with so many coaches, and the interesting thing is they do all the stuff they think they're supposed to. They get the website and the business cards and everything, and then nothing happens.
Right.
And then they would call me and say, help, I don't know how to
Right.
get this thing going.
Right. So you'll appreciate that my first year I had about 300 people come through my program, and I was ecstatic because
Yeah.
I know that I had something that was working. But the other piece to this that I shared with you that was probably my biggest surprise was that I felt, again, a little whisper that I needed to check in with my horses.
Yes.
And to see if this was going to work for them, because horses are like people. Some people are good at things and they're not good at other things, and horses might be made for jumping and they're not made for therapy work. And so I really wanted to make sure I was taking my horses into account. And I've used an animal communicator, and I know some people may wonder about animal communicators, but after experience with them,
I've used them too, guys, and so whatever you think, it's amazing what they tell you. That's all I'm going to say.
You have to experience it yourself and have that validation of
Yes.
a confirmation of something that they couldn't have known, to have that experience
Yes.
that you really trust it. And some people are better than others, so finding someone that you really trust. So I brought my animal communicator into it. I asked her to check in with my horse to see if this was something that she wanted to do, and she was happy about it. But the animal communicator came back and she said, Sheryl, she's telling me that you need to hand over more to her. And I was really shocked. I'm like, okay, I didn't even begin to imagine that. And I said, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
So I said, can you ask her what that means? And she came back, she goes, all I'm getting is she's telling me to hand more over to her. So I was kind of dumbfounded, and I tried playing around with some things, and it really didn't work. And the next healing horse circle I have, where I have a circle of people sitting in chairs in meditation with the horses outside the circle around us. I was starting the circle, and Jane, my lead horse, came over to me and she kind of bumped me with her nose. And I know enough to know that that means something, but I didn't know what it meant.
Right.
And so I kind of laughed it off and got my group going, and she did it again, only this time harder. She bumped me, pretty good, and people all going like, "Okay, Sheryl, what is she trying to tell you?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm not sure." And so the last time that she bumped me, she knocked me so hard, she knocked me in my chair over.
Oh my.
And I'm going like, okay, she definitely is trying to tell me something,
Yes.
but I don't have a clue. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next couple of days, I kept thinking, okay, hand more over to me and bumping me. Hand more over to me and bumping me. And all of a sudden, it was like a light bulb went on.
Yeah.
My horse wants to join the session
Uh-huh.
and come in and help run the program. And sure enough, the next time I ran a circle, she came over, she nudged me, but this time we were ready. We opened up space for her, and she stepped into the space.
Uh-huh.
And then not only just stepped into the space, but after a few minutes, and she kind of looked at me for permission, and I was like, oh, it's okay. She walks around, and she goes to people that she can sense need her.
Mm-hmm.
And she ministers to the people in the circle. So this whole journey has been a series of these inspirations and paying attention to the whispers, and obviously the light bulbs are pretty fun to have
Yes.
when they go off.
You've started a lot of businesses.
I have, yeah.
Is this different than the ones you've started in the past?
I'll have to say that I've had inspiration before,
Uh-huh.
and in fact, back in my 20s, I remembered a quote from Alan Alda that was, "Follow your heart, and money will follow."
Uh-huh.
And it really hit me to focus on what my passion and what my heart was. So I have been inspired, and I've done some things that have been pretty exciting,
Right.
I think. But I've also learned that there's times that you're done.
Yes.
And it's okay to build something and then be ready for something else to grow.
Yes, I've experienced that too, as I've shared with my followers, recently closing one business and stepping into something new that I don't know what the end game looks like. I'm being inspired to do exactly what I'm doing right now and trusting that it's leading me where it's supposed to go.
Isn't that hard? I found when you've built something that's successful
Yes.
to say, I'm done, because people don't understand it.
They don't. People are like, how can you walk away from a business that's making money and you still have people wanting to hire
Right.
you? And the best way I can explain it is when I felt like I didn't have anything else to give to that business or anything else to share, and I felt a very strong calling that there was something else I was supposed to be doing. I just wasn't sure exactly what it was. And for me, I don't know about you, but it was difficult at first to honor that, because
It was.
my normal way was, make it happen. And
Exactly.
so to honor that and listen to it and open up the space and maybe even do nothing for a little while, I think was challenging for me. But the magic that happens when you do that, I wanted to ask you, could you have planned what's transpired over the last 2 years?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely not. It is a journey of trust. I call it radical self-trust, that you really
Yes.
have to trust that you're going to follow this new path, and that you're going to take it where it goes, and you're going to trust where it leads you. And it's unnerving sometimes. Even right now, I've got some decisions to make, and I don't know exactly what direction I'm going to go in.
Yeah.
But it's also exciting.
Yes.
And like you said, when you run a business and the energy runs out, it's like when you're inspired, it's like you've got this deep well to pull from, and your energy's almost endless.
Yes.
And you're creative, and it's almost like it's not you. It's almost like the stuff that's coming to you is from elsewhere. And so when you've got that energy, you can create. But then when it's gone, I find if you stay in that area of pulling, that's where people get sick. That's where people do things that aren't right for them. I just think that's where people get in trouble.
Yes.
And I've gone through getting sick.
And I have too, and I've shared openly about that, the stress and the burnout and the health issues that followed, because I kept following a path that I knew in my heart wasn't right, but it's what I'd always done, and I thought it was what I was supposed to do.
Yeah. So for me, it's so important to kind of keep that compass on that inspired spot, so that my energy is there, the creativity is there, and that's my source. I mean, that's what I trust. But no, I would never have dreamed I'd be working with horses doing what I'm doing at all.
Yeah.
You know my background.
You can't make this stuff up, as I talk about with some of my friends, which is very cool. So let me ask you this before we wrap it up. Is there any piece of advice that you would share with someone that wants to either build an inspired business or just live an inspired life?
It's a daily process of listening to the whispers, paying attention to those ideas that come up, and pushing the rock that moves. A friend of mine told me that when I was young. Push the rock that moves, because we can, I mean, even now, sometimes I'll get a little whisper and I'll do a light push and it doesn't move. It's like, okay, I'll hold back.
Yes.
You know, so it's like when I feel movement, it's like I'll go further. So push the rock that moves. Don't expect all the ideas to come at once. That there will be times even after you're inspired that you might have moments of darkness, or like, I don't know where I'm at and what I'm doing.
Or you might make a U-turn, because that's happened to me. I've been really clear and I followed something, and then all of a sudden it dries up and I'm like, wait.
And you know what? The other part too about that is sometimes I find that those little offshoots that I went on later in my life are important.
Yes.
That I got some information or I gathered a skill that now I need.
Yes.
That I wouldn't have gotten unless I had done that. So I've kind of learned to trust that even when things are apparently not going right, that maybe you're exactly where you need to be.
I believe that as well. Yes. And I think the biggest challenge is trusting in the moment that I'm supposed to be here, this feels really wrong, or it's painful, or it's hard, or whatever it is that doesn't feel like you're actually following inspiration. But I had an aha a few years ago that I realized I've been following inspiration this whole time. I just had expectations that it was always going to be rainbows and ponies and everything was going to be great. And it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but life still has challenges.
Yeah, it still does. It still does. And it's more fun this way, isn't it? I mean, because I found when I was so into the long-term planning and stuff, I got out of touch with that energy.
Yes.
And it wasn't fun.
Yes.
And I just find this process so much more fun.
I do too, because there's something a little scary but also really exciting about not knowing exactly where you're going. I don't know if you're like me, but I have a clear intention or a loose vision. Like I see something kind of where I'm heading. I just have no idea how I'm going to get there or what the path is going to look like. And that's the fun part for me, because it's not like it's a complete mystery. You sort of have some direction. But the fun part is waking up every day and find, what's going to happen today?
and what I find fun too is that you and I have a lot of business background.
Yes.
And we know the right way to do things. But it's not about doing it the right way. It's about being inspired to know when to use those skills.
Right.
When to put the marketing plan into place. When to use a website or not.
Right.
And trusting that sometimes you're not going to follow the rules. You're going to break rules, and it's okay.
Yes. Oh, I want to end it there, because that's a perfect place to end it. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope that you guys have found this interesting, and check out Healing Horse Ranch, because what she's doing is really amazing. I've experienced it firsthand several times. We've done some work together where I've brought my therapy dog up here and we've kind of brought the horses and the dogs together, but it's very cool, and I agree. I don't think you could have made it up if you tried.
and I just want to thank you for doing this work, because it's something that has been a guide for me in my life, but it's not anyone that talks about it like the way you talk about it.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate this work that you're doing, and I think you're going to really be helping a lot of people. So
thank you.
I'm excited about what you're doing.
Thank you so much.